Hi everyone, it's Karen here. Welcome. It's day 3. It's been fabulous to see the tags that you've been making. Thanks so much for watching, joining me. So here we are, day 3. This time we're going to be using the lovely Toad Lodge and the sentiment stamp from Lavinia called Merry Christmas. It says, have a very Merry Christmas. So I'm going to be using one stencil in the background, and that's called Featherleaf. The colours that I'm going to be using: Peacock Feathers, Mustard Seed, as always, Nocturne for my stamping. It's a really simple tag, but oh my goodness, you can have so much fun with the colouring. We'll talk about pencils and colouring when we get to that point, but I've just chosen colours that complemented the whole tag. As always, the tag size that I'm going to be using is 6.5 centimetres by 12.5 centimetres, and then I measured 1 centimetre in from the edge, 1 centimetre down from the top on both sides, and then just snipped that at an angle. I've made batches of the tags, so that way I don't have to keep measuring. I will just use it as a template. Then the ribbon size is 34 centimetres in length, and I just chose a ribbon that matched the colours on my tag. So we'll get started. The very first thing that we're going to do is stamp our Toad Lodge onto our tag. That gives us a focal point to stencil around. Hey, you could do it the other way around, no worries. And I'm just going to pop this with a bit of space underneath it. Beautiful, crystal clear. Just the detail on these stamps, it's just amazing. Anyway, you'll see when we get to colouring them. Wow, what fun we're going to have there. So I'm not going to tape this down, because it's relatively quick. I'm just going to pop it there, and I'm going to bring in my 2 colours. I'm going to start with Mustard Seed. Tap, tap, tap. Get myself a bit of paper to tap off the first bit of the excess. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, I've got my finger over the stamping. That way it sort of holds the whole thing in place. And I'm just going to give this a bit of halo on the left hand side there. You want to go quite dark with this because you want it to be a focal point. I shouldn't have picked that up, that was daft. So let me just reorient it. So don't pick it up. And then I'm going to be using my other stencil brush. And I'm going to go over the entire rest of the card. Now, it really doesn't matter if you go over the yellow, because yellow and blue make green. So it will be fine if they blend together. And there we have our gorgeous tag with our 2 colours. And you'll see when we blend around the edge, it will bring our whole story together. So this tag will be about the colouring. That's the sort of quotes technique, if you like, that I want to talk through and share with you on this tag. So actually I'm going to do that stamping, that sentiment stamping last. So there we have our gorgeous tag. We're not quite finished yet. We will draw it in when we create the frame around the edge. We'll do the stamping on last. So the next thing that we're going to do is the colouring. Now, some people have a real worry about colouring. Hey, my goodness, with these stamps, it's so easy. Today, the pencils that I'm going to be using are Faber-Castell. And that's because I was very blessed with this gorgeous set. Look at this. Oh my goodness, are you ready? 2 layers. They're just, and look at those beautiful vibrant colours. So I have this set, but you will see me often using my gorgeous Inktense pencils. I love these too because they blend well with water, and they're really soft, so they blend easily across the page. But I just decided for this one I needed and wanted some really bright colours that my Inktense box didn't have. So that's how I chose. It's really that simple. I just like the colours, and that's what I went with. If you've got some pencils at home, I don't think you need to go out and buy anything extra special because you don't. So we're going to start with my lightest colour, and you can see I'm not being too careful. I wouldn't have got any points for colouring in the lines at school. And I'm just colouring the bottom of my little toad lodge, and I'm not being too careful. I'm leaving some white space. That's really important because, you know, light moves, so we don't want solid colouring. And then I'm just going to take one of my lighter colours, and I'm literally just going over some of that yellow pencil that I've already created, and I'm not colouring it very specifically, just bits and pieces here and there, because that's where you'll see how the light shines nicely through it. The only thing that I want to say is that these are vines growing up the side of the lodge. What you do want to do is make sure that you pick a darker colour underneath the vines. Okay, and that's because if you put something on top of something else, there's a shadow that's created underneath it. That's called a cast shadow. So if we have the vine on the lodge, there will be a dark patch underneath where the vine was. So that's the only, if you like, rule that I've followed here. I've created a bit of darkness underneath each of the vines. And you can see as I'm colouring this, I'm really being quite quick, quite rough. And you know, I've just picked different greens, different yellows, and I'm just colouring right over them. That way they blend together. There you go, some dark line, long lines, some short lines. And don't worry if you go over the vines, because we are going to whiten those up in a moment. Don't necessarily need this green, but it just adds something else. You know, if you look at sand on the beach, there's not one colour. If you look at the sky, there's not one colour. Leaves on a tree, there's not one colour. So if you find you've gone too dark, go back to your yellow, because that lightens the whole thing. There we go. Now, for our little walls, you can see what I'm doing, just a couple of squiggles here and there into the little bricks in our cottage. Oh, this is so much fun, right? You can just spend ages fiddling and playing here. And then I took my white pen and the pen that I'm using here is my Uniball Signa. I love this pen. It always gives me a nice white, can't see it there, here we go. There we go, white. Now some people say it scrapes, and that's because you're holding it at an angle. That scrapes. If you hold it upright, you will get a nice solid colour. So we're just going to pop a bit of this white here and there amongst the stones. Once we've done the shading around the edge, we might come back and highlight some more of that white. But this is what is going to save us on the vines. We're just going to use this white pen across the vines. And then I'm going to take my smoothie and my peacock feathers. I'm going to use a piece of acetate to protect the rest of my work. And we're just going to bring this ink. Sorry, these sponges are quite new. I'm going to just bring this ink. No, the sponges are not new, they're quite clean, is what I mean. So I'm keeping this blending sponge moving in a circular motion. So you can see it changes the actual design quite dramatically when you've got this blending tone on tone behind the stenciling that you already did. Then we're going to stamp our sentiment with our nocturne. And I'm just going to pop this "Have a very Merry Christmas" along the side. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is create the hole for my ribbon. And as you've seen me do this a couple of times, I'm going to use my big bite and then I would thread my 34cm ribbon through. So there we have it, a gorgeous tag and lots of colouring, easy, some simple stenciling. I'd love to see what you make. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.